Yo, what's going on, guys? Once again, we have another budget guide in my channel, and today's build cost is going to be $270 for this awesome build we have today. And in fact, in this video, we will go a little deeper into some of the problems I come across when building these budget systems with the OEM type motherboards.
And first off, we have the motherboard, which is the Optiplex 3020 SFF, and we did come across a couple problems with this motherboard, but we will talk about that later and go over the pros and cons to using these OEM type motherboards. And in my opinion, I do think the pros outweigh the cons, but again, we will talk about that later. Next up, we have the CPU. Now, you have seen this on the channel before. It's that, of course, Xeon E3-1241 V3, and the reason I love this CPU so much is the price to performance it gives, being an i7-4770 equivalent. And of course, I picked this up because I found it for a very similar price as the last one. If you can find these for a good deal, really pick these up because they are great CPUs. And you've already seen this cooler on the channel a couple times, so I'll go through it quickly. This is just a literal basic LGA cooler that you can get pretty much anywhere, like eBay, Amazon, whatever. Just a cheap cooler to cool these cheap CPUs and these cheap motherboards. And here's the RAM going into this motherboard. What's also nice about these motherboards is they do accept DDR3L type RAM, so you know, you have a little bit more options there, but this is just a cheap kit of 1333 megahertz of 8 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM, so a great fit for this system. Okay, now the GPU in this system is the RX 460 2GB variant, and this card, I mean, it's not that bad, and I actually do kind of like this red look, even though a lot of people do not like the OEM look of these cards, but that's okay. Now, I actually don't recommend something like this. This is more of a buy it now, get it shipped to your house option. I do recommend going out and part hunting and finding good deals on local graphics cards where you could get stuff like a 960 for $75, but not too bad if you just want to go on eBay and click buy it now. Alright, y'all, I'm not even going to put the listings up on the screen. You know the deal here if you've been watching my channel. You can get 120GB SSDs for $15 to $30, and you can get 500GB hard drives for like $8 to $15. So on here, I will show a price tally at the very end of the video of, you know, all the prices listed so you know exactly how much I got them for, but this is the basic kit for a budget gaming PC. And the PSU. I actually love these type of PSUs. You've seen them several times on this channel, but I do have to say they also have their downsides. You can really only put them in these like really budget builds because they don't even have a 8-pin CPU connector. They only have a 4-pin CPU connector, and they also have no power for graphics cards, so you have to have adapters. So there's actually a lot of downsides to these, but when you can use them well, they're actually really good for the money. And now we have the case. Actually, the case worked really well with this motherboard for it being so small, but what a great price for $29 for this case, and it came with 2 RGB fans as well, so I was really impressed for the price of this because it was on sale. And of course, it's not anything fancy, but man, it works well with this system. Alright, now that we're done with the parts list, we're going to be talking about some of the problems and some of the great things about this build. I show the fan there for the proprietary connector. Of course, we're going to need adapters. We are going to need these short out pins and paper clips, and then I have the red stuff just to add some kind of aesthetic to the PC with this red fan and the red theme I have going here. Alright, now I quickly set up the PC just so I can show you what happens when you boot it on. So here we go, it turns on, and now let's take a look at the screen. I go ahead and zoom in here so I can show you. And here it is, guys. Here's alert, alert, alert. So as you can see, there's 4 failures. and one is the rear fan, one is the power button, one's the front I/O, and one was hard drive not found, but I literally just did not have a hard drive connected, so don't worry about that. But let's go ahead and go over it and see how we can fix these and what the problem is. Alright, now first of all, let's get the easy stuff out of the way. I'm going to point to all the spots on the motherboard that are proprietary and you need to get adapters. So here's this one, and now we have this one and this one. And of course those are the fan headers and then the 24-pin to 8-pin power connector for the motherboard. All the rest is pretty self-explanatory. RAM slots are easy, the PCIe, everything, the SATA. I mean, of course, we have the other things we'll talk about later, which are the front I/O, power switch, etc. Now let's talk about the other proprietary things, which is the power switch. This is the Dell Optiplex cable, which is a 5-pin power switch cable, which is obviously not normal when we're doing a case swap and we only have a 2-pin power switch. So here's a diagram of what normal computers, power switch, power LED, all that stuff looks like. Now here's the diagram of what the Optiplexes looks like. Obviously that is totally different. So the power switch, the 2 pins, if you short out 1 and 4, then it will power on. So now it works, you power it on with the 2-pin power switch from a new case. But if you want the error message to go away, then the 2 arrows I just pointed to, which is 2 and 5, that will make the error message go away for the power switch. Bit more space, and then plug this back in this way. All right, just like that, now we have both on there perfectly, and this should solve the power switch failure. Let's go ahead and see if that's going to work out. Turn on the PC, everything's working. As you can see, the fans are all working. Now that I'll get rid of in a minute, don't worry about it. Now let's see if the power button is still going to be up there. Aha, see? Now we only have 2 alerts left. Front I/O cable. And then of course, just like the CPU cooler, if you just get that same exact adapter, you can fix the rear fan failure error by plugging in that adapter right here on the motherboard and then turning on the PC, and now you will no longer have that error. And I'll go ahead and show you that. And boom, you could plug in this like so. Okay, now you have this. You grab a regular fan, and now that you have the regular fan, you can literally just plug in the regular fan into the adapter. So now that will no longer pop up. And just to prove that point, let me go ahead and power on the system. And this fan is going to start spinning, so I can prove that that will not pop up anymore. So now rear fan, there we go. Now we no longer have rear fan. Alright, so what's great is part of the front I/O failure is actually not proprietary. So as you can see, a normal case will fit these 2 spots for your front audio and then of course your front USB ports. So that part is not proprietary. What part is proprietary is up here by the power switch. This right here, I'm so sorry, could not figure it out. And I'm talking, I used paper clips, I used screwdriver, I used those 2-pin power switches I have. I did everything I could and could not figure out how to get that failure to stop. But other than that, I took off all the rest, but you do sadly still have to hit F1 when booting into the computer. But so here are some of the pros and cons of this. Of course, there's all these proprietary things where you have to do a little bit more work. You have to have all these adapters, but even with all the adapters, it still ends up being less money than if you were to pay for like a real proper motherboard. So I still think that the pros outweigh the cons. If you just do a little bit more work here, I think it works out great. All right, anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the build. We'll do the B-roll and benchmarks, and this video is going to be a wrap-up.
is it? What do you see? As a twisted tide